which is the art language, under some aesthetical principles or worries. So I'm a little bit far from the problems you have day by day, which requires specific and urgent answers for the every day. So, but yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. But then at the same time, you keep on returning to
yes, but
your art.
No, but I go there. What I'm trying to say is I don't have these challenges, so this kind of task to talk or have a response and an answer for such problems so big like they have to deal every day. But at the same time, it's not by random you invited me to be here. It's because the work I'm developing, normally it is linked with the issues about the social, economical and political problems, which I focus normally in my works. So what I try to develop with my work, artwork, it's not only worries linked with the form and the way I present the work, but also the subject of those works, and which are precisely linked with these issues I said before. So in my case, why I choose this, it's only because I cannot separate my way of thinking as a citizen from my way of thinking as an artist. I bring with me and I carry with me all the time those ways of thinking. So as a citizen and as artist, once again I have to say that I cannot separate the things, and normally what I try to express in my work, artwork, it's precisely those problems I see in our societies nowadays, which they touch me, and I don't want to see our society growing or developing in that way. And I'm talking about, for example, the absence of freedom, the injustice, several kinds of injustice I saw around the world. This question about the refugees, it is one of them. The way how we treat the others, those we call the others, for me are the same as me or as us. And this question about the refugees, it was one of the questions I tried to express in my works when I developed a series of works, more or less in 2008, which was precisely about this question, the problematic of the immigration, where I focus more or less specifically here in Europe, but it doesn't mean the problem is only focused in Europe. It's spread for all over the world. But normally I talk out of view from Europe because this is the continent where I am, and I have a better perspective from this place. And what I try to do with my words when I show it, it's precisely to touch these points of view, my personal point of view, and try to express it for the others.
Okay, no, but
yes.
It's just because we are pressed.
Very often ending with the human tragedies, death in the Mediterranean Sea, or people detained en masse in prisons along European borders. I mean, I'm not saying that it's something new. It has been there for decades. But I mean, talking about it, visualizing it, and also facing that how seemingly desperate and hopeless the situation for both parties, actually, both for the people who try to enter, and also for the communities who try to bring up a solution, or either way, I mean, be open or trying to closing down. So this is something which is being reinforced. I mean, looking at the numbers, that's pretty interesting. That something has changed profoundly since the early 90s, when I think the peak year for the EU was 99 in terms of asylum seekers, when almost 1 million people asked for asylum in Europe. It was 99 with the Kosovo crisis. It was still the sort of the well, it was already beyond the first war in the Balkans, but still there were repercussions. And so you saw people. I mean, today it is slightly more than 200,000 asylum seekers a year. So it's 1/4 of the number in 15 years. So it's not that these numbers are increasing, but still the problems are vocalized much stronger than they used to be. So this is one issue. The other issue is European mobility. Becoming an EU member, it's all about freedom. It's all about people living freely in a common legal and economic and cultural sphere. But what we see right now, especially with the new member states, people from Romania, people from Bulgaria, then all of a sudden this solidarity is being put to the question again, and again national governments coming up with issues of dismantling the Schengen system, sealing the borders, reintroducing visa regimes, reconsidering this freedom of movement principle. And again, what we are talking about, a couple hundred Roma people moving to France, moving to Italy, trying to make a living there as they have probably tried for the past couple of centuries. So nothing new again, but again, this force is new. And I mean, whatever I'm saying, probably I end up with the very same notion that it's all about reconsidering the social solidarity on which the European welfare state, even the concept of the union, is built, and it is a hard time. Not so much in terms of the social processes, much more in terms of the political discourse, and also some sort of common discontent, which is both political but also very very personal and very individual, or perceived at the level of particular local communities. And I think this is an issue, and this is new. So the processes are not new at all, but the social reaction and the way things develop is new, and to a certain extent it's frightening. I mean, I'm not modeling this content and fear and stuff. It's not doomsday, but you have to be cautious with all these tendencies, that's for sure.
Okay. I'd like to ask you, Lilla, about, are there new tendencies that Cordelia has to deal with, or because your organization has been around for 20 years, do you run into the same problems over and over again, or there are new challenges that are around, for example, because now Hungary is also part of the EU, that Cordelia has to address or deal with?
To correct 20 years instead of 70, so 17 years isn't correct, but never mind, it's nothing. Does it work? Yeah, okay. So what András has mentioned is the macro context. What I have to mention is the micro context. The micro context on the level of the individual cases, on the individual. Just cite me an example of torture. What did torture mean in the past? Torture meant physical damage, and torture meant mental damage as well, due to the physical damage and physical harm. Now, what does torture mean today? Torture means psychological damage, so the scars are invisible. The scars are much deeper than what are not visible, and they are taken in not only in the skin, in the somatic organs, but it is incorporated in our psychological system as well. The torture are much more tricky nowadays. So they use certain psychological methods what don't leave scars. This is a very good tool to the decision makers, European decision makers, to say if there are no scars, there was no torture. So this is the special duty of our organizations, because we collaborate on a daily basis with Menedék, with Helsinki Committee and other NGOs around the client, for the client, just to prove the damage. Just imagine what sort of a damage this process makes on the person, that he has to prove with the help of certain persons, certain NGOs, that he had nearly died. And he was damaged by his whole society and by the political system. So this is a very perverted way of thinking, to prove the invisible scars throughout psychological and medical legal reports, if they are admitted and if they are taken into account.
Migration issues, not talking about when we travel to fly for some place to in holidays. It's not that. But what I think it's human beings are traveling all the time, and nowadays what I still notice, it's the problems we are creating for them, or for many people who are looking for better places to live, leaving those countries of origin. But Lilla and András know this very, very well. And what I think I lose a little bit, sorry. With all of this, when catching your sentence, sorry, I think I lost a little bit with it.
No. I was actually just wondering if the so-called being a migrant is something that we all are in these days.
No.
And if migrants, and now we talked about a very tragic aspect of migration, namely refugees, but migrants, I guess, also suffer from serious issues, being uprooted, not having a home, needing to living in spaces that are completely without security, and so I was just wondering if you agree, if you think that this is the case, or it's a nice theory, but it's not the case, and we all feel at home, and sometimes we travel and we enjoy that.
Yes, but in fact it is what I think the problem nowadays, and is still continue to exist. It is this question about the boundaries we are every time creating for the people who wants to go around the world, and normally, and in my case, what worries me more, it is those who are in a bad position and trying to look for a better place to live, and instead they find open doors and people who receive them and are more solidary with them. No, instead of that, what they have, it is big frontiers, bureaucratic process to be integrated, and so on. So that question about in the contemporary nowadays, I think that this is still a problem. People need to travel, and my point of view is they should be allowed to travel, to migrate from one place to another place. That's why I lost the point before.
So you can say that this is a very nice thought, but in reality it's not the case. And there are people who suffer, who still struggle the consequences of migration more than others do.
Yes, precisely. And I noticed that, not exactly, I didn't have any experience of that in my life. To say the truth, and just in case you are curious, I don't have any relation or direct relation with this issue about immigrations and refugees and so on, unless the one.
Because for me, we have a cultural decline. So the capitalist system is not good for humankind, for mankind at all. And we have to overcome the system, and that's the problem. We are now building borders and borders and borders just to protect the capitalistic system, and we need a big mind change. And that is I think where art can help or just raise the questions what we want to be in our lives, how we want to be in our lives. And art can be a projection of wishes, of intuition, of so many different levels of consciousness.
Can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Do you think art can help within the framework of a gallery? What I mean is that people, obviously with money, or without money, but with a good social status, walk in there, they look at, oh yes, indeed, the poor refugees, poor migrants, they have such hard lives, and then